Okay, everybody, this is Bill Witt. With me is Tara Kendrick, and today we're going to talk about probably the biggest risk all of us are going to face as we get older, and that's paying for long-term care. This is where our practice started back in 2002, helping families protect assets and qualify for federal and state benefits to help pay for long-term care. This presentation is part of an educational series that we've been doing and will continue to do called SRC University. And our goal here is to provide retirement education to explain many of the topics that we're going to run into in retirement. We try to keep our sessions down to 30 minutes, so they're very short. They're available on your schedule. And because we record the sessions, you can always go to our website, srctexas.com. And under the resource tab, there's a listing for SRC University. You can re-listen to this if you have questions or if you want to share it with friends or neighbors. The topics we cover are also explained in our book, More Money for Retirement. And you can download a copy of the book for free on our website, a PDF. If you want a printed copy, we're happy to mail it out. We charge $5 for shipping and handling. And the goal is to further explain topics in our book and to help people create a safe, secure retirement. And the best part of our university is there's no final exam. This is a part of a series of webinars we started back a number of weeks ago, and you can see the ones on top starting with Medicare changes in 2025. If you missed any of these, you can go back and listen to them. Today we're going to focus on not paying for long-term care by tapping Medicaid and VA benefits. And we may change the order of what's coming next. We're waiting for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid to release the Medicare numbers for next year, what the Medicare B premium and Medicare A premium will be. And so we may change the order, but plan on joining us next week to talk about making choices on Medicare. And then we'll have a webinar on signing up for Medicare, what the process is. And then we have a series of additional topics, pay less tax, showing folks how to tap into home equity, ways to protect your wishes, having the right legal documents, avoiding probate. And then our final webinar will be on exposing modern annuities, talking about the features that you may not be aware of. So how do we help? We do 4 things in our practice: comprehensive retirement planning, helping people build a 10, 20, 30-year retirement plan, showing them where they'll be in the future. Not where they are today, but where they'll be in the future. We do tax planning, not tax preparation, and there we show people legal ways to pay less tax using the tax code. We do a lot of long-term care planning. That's what today's topic is focused on. And finally, we do estate planning, and there we want to help people have the right legal documents to protect their wishes and also avoid probate, which is unnecessary in Texas. So today's topics. We're going to do a quick comparison of financial advisors to financial planners, where we'll focus on what is the problem, what is long-term care. We'll talk about where people get care and the cost that they have to pay for it. And then we're going to talk about ways to pay for long-term care, and specifically focusing on VA benefits and Medicaid benefits. So within our industry, there are 2 kinds of individuals that offer advice. There are financial advisors and planners. And, people ask us sometimes, what is the difference between an advisor and a planner? Well, we advise people as well as plan. We help people pick products, like it might be a Medicare supplement. It might be a particular financial instrument to meet their needs. So we help people pick product, but our focus is not so much now. It's where will people be 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And we have very powerful software that we use to help kind of show the road in front of people where they will be. You can go back and listen to one of our prior webinars on financial planning, and I think you'll like that. And our focus, our philosophy within our practice is more on the safety side of things. We've all seen huge corrections in the stock market every 10 or 15 years. And so we try to help our clients build retirement plans that are more focused on safety, on things they can control. And the bedrock of that is income. If you have enough income in retirement, just like when you're working, You don't have to worry about what the Fed does with interest rates or what the stock market does, because you have your lifestyle insulated. And so we work in both realms. We do advising, but more importantly, we also do some very important future planning. So what is the problem that we're wanting to tackle today? The greatest financial risk that we face in retirement, bar none, is paying for long-term care. This has been verified by multiple studies, reports, and so having a plan to pay for long-term care is critical to a safe, secure retirement. And we're going to show you how to tap into federal and state benefits. Well, how did this problem come about? Well, it's a combination of two things. The first is longevity. We're living much, much longer these days than we were 100 years ago. In fact, at 1900, the average life expectancy was only a little over 30 years. Today, it's into the late 70s. And if you're 65 today, whether you're a woman or a man, you can plan on living, on average, another 18 years. So you put longevity with better medical care, and most of us will stick around. And eventually, either our brains or our bodies will wear out, and we'll need to receive long-term care. So if you're 65 today, you have a 70% chance of needing long-term care. And the cost and length of care keeps rising. Recent research shows that women on average receive 3.7 years of care, men a little bit less, 2.2 years. But that's a lot of time receiving expensive care. Let's put a definition on what is long-term care. And there's essentially two different ways of looking at it, either physical impairment or cognitive impairment. On the physical side, the experts have defined activities of daily living: eating, physically feeding yourself, dressing, bathing, transference, moving from a bed to a chair to a bed, toileting, and incontinence. And usually the understanding is when you need hands-on assistance with two of these 6 activities, maybe I need help dressing and bathing, well, then I qualify for what's called long-term care. The second path in is cognitive impairment. Many of the people we work with, many of the families, have a loved one or a friend who is suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia, and they need to live in a protected environment. They need 24/7 supervision. They need help with medicine management. And when they meet those criteria, they qualify for long-term care under cognitive impairment. So 2 different paths. What's the cost and where do we get care? Well, most care is received in a home-based environment. And it can start out at a few $100s a month, bringing a caregiver in, might even be a free family member rendering the care. But if you're receiving 7 days a week, 8 hours a day care, the costs really start mounting. And if you bring somebody in to live full time, you could easily be paying over $20,000 a month to receive care in a home environment. Another area where people receive care is independent living. That's oftentimes where people move when they're tired of maintaining and upgrading a home. So they move to an independent living setting, and costs there can run anywhere from $1,500 up to $2,500 a month or more. The next step on the ladder is assisted living. That's where we're kind of turning over some of our base activities to someone who's going to care for us. The meals are cooked for us. The cleaning is done. We probably have our own apartment. And there the costs can run anywhere from $3,500 up to as much as $6,500 if you're needing to be in an assisted living or a memory care version of assisted living. And then at the highest end, we have skilled nursing. That's where people need lots of care. And the costs generally start in the $5,000 range. And for a single room, you could easily be paying $8,500 or $9,000 a month. So you can see that if somebody's in a skilled nursing home for 6 months, 8 months, a year, or 2 years, there's a lot of cost being incurred there. A number of years ago, AARP did a survey on the reasons that seniors go broke. Guess what? It wasn't Bernie Madoff or the stock market or overspending. the number one reason seniors go broke in retirement is paying for long-term care. So we have to look for ways to cut down on that. And within our area of expertise, there's 5 ways people pay for long-term care. The first one is private pay. Use up savings, and that's fine if you have enough savings, but it can be very expensive and it can end up draining your savings. The second way is Medicare. Now, a lot of people think that Medicare will pay for long-term care, but it's what we call short-term long-term care. If you spend 3 nights in a hospital and then transfer to a care facility to rehabilitate, Medicare will pay for the first 20 days. If you have a Medicare supplement, which is what I have original Medicare plus a supplement and a drug plan, I can get an additional 80 days paid for to rehabilitate. You have to make progress to get all 80 days. But as you can see, even with 80 plus 20, that's only 100 days, and many people need longer levels of care. So there's 2 federal programs that Tara and Stacy and I focus on. One is veterans benefits, and we'll talk about that in length. And the other is Medicaid benefits. So this will be the focus of our discussion today. The last area are insurance products. We're not going to touch on those today, but there are products that can multiply the money you've got. You've probably heard about long-term care insurance. We have a number of tools in that area to also help people. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tara, and she'll start out by giving you a comparison of VA and Medicaid where it fits.
Okay, and thanks, Bill. The VA, when we're talking about VA, like Medicaid, is many different programs. So when we speak about VA, we're talking about VA aid and attendance benefit. And with Medicaid, we're talking about Medicaid for elderly and people with disabilities. So it's the one that will only pay in skilled nursing. So VA will pay anywhere. It's kind of like a fixed pension. So they'll pay whether you need care at home, adult daycare, assisted living, skilled nursing. Where Medicaid will only pay in skilled nursing. VA is a fixed amount where Medicaid will pay whatever you can't pay. VA does have an asset limit. This year it's $155,356, and that doesn't include some things we'll talk about. And then Medicaid, your asset limit is $2,000. All right, so let's start with VA in attendance. It's a non-service connected disability pension. It was created in 1952 by Congress, but they were told not to advertise it. So a lot of people haven't known about it for a very long time. And finally, more people are talking about it today, which is nice. And it will pay wherever you are receiving care. So there's different criteria that you have to meet in order to qualify for the benefit. The first one is you have to have served 90 consecutive days, one day during this wartime period. So here's the wartime periods. They are a little wider than, if you're a war buff, the typical start and end of the war. So if you have served one day in that window and then 90 consecutive days thereafter, you are eligible under the service piece. Okay, so here's the breakdown. Military service, honorable discharge, served 90 consecutive days of active duty, served one of those days during the period of conflict. The next one's medical necessity. And we have had families come in and say, hey, I applied for this benefit, but I didn't get the benefit. And we said, well, who's caring for you, or how are you receiving care? And they said, oh, well, we don't need care right now. Well, of course, the VA is going to deny you because one of the expectations is that you're needing and receiving that care. So you need to have cognitive or physical impairment, which means you need hands-on assistance with 2 of the 5 activities of daily living, like Bill talked about: eating, bathing, dressing, toileting, and transference. Or you have to be diagnosed with some sort of cognitive impairment, moderate cognitive impairment, dementia, Alzheimer's, something that says that you need 24-hour supervision. The next piece is income. So income is going to be that your care expense has to meet or exceed your income. So what is a care expense? That could be paying an in-home caregiver. It could be a facility cost. Something else that counts are your medical premiums, your Part B premium, independent activities of daily living care. That means you have someone coming in to make meals or to do your medications or to give you rides or do house cleaning. Those things also count as a care expense. For assets, your home is exempt. If you're on more than 2 acres or own more than 2 acres, then that will count. You're allowed to have a prepaid burial program and 1 car. Everything else is countable and cannot exceed the 155,356 this year. In 2025, it will go up. So this year in 24, you can see a married vet whose spouse is still alive can receive 2727 all the way down to a surviving spouse, which can get 1478. So it's a pretty significant amount of money and definitely offsets some cost of care or sets you up for getting additional care that you won't have to pay for because the VA will be helping offset that amount. The big thing about VA aid and attendance and just any government program, it's real important to not do it by yourself, to find someone like us or maybe a veteran service officer, someone who knows how to do the application. It's a long, lengthy process, and you want to make sure you do it right the first time so you get the fastest, fully developed claim that you can get. They do ask for proof of income and assets. They don't take your word for it, and they do check IRS records. They're very limited in their communication. They will never call you. You will only correspond by mail to them, and then you can always call the call center for status, but it's going to be a very generic. It's in the decision phase. It's in the gathering information phase, that sort of thing. And usually for veterans and spouses, currently we're seeing about a 6-month turnaround. Like I said, you can apply through the veteran service officer. Every county has their local veteran service officer. If you, don't need this yourself, make sure you tell other people about it. Tell your friends and family. If you have, just this is a side note, if you have an illness or ailment that's related to your activity of service. So for example, if you were in the Air Force and you worked on airplane engines and you have massive hearing loss, it would be worth a conversation with a VSO to talk about getting a disability pension rather than aid and attendance, because the disability pensions don't have asset and income criteria, and you'll get the full amount. Now, if you're 80% to 100% disabled, you will get more than you would if you filed for aid and attendance. So it's worth looking into, doing the work, getting the appointment with a VA doctor, especially a lot of those Vietnam vets out there who have had exposure to Agent Orange. There's a lot of ailments that have come out that they've done studies on that are from the Agent Orange exposure.
Yeah, Tara, maybe one thing we ought to mention to folks is that if they're above that 155 limit, there are still things that people can do. We've had families that had a home where they still had a mortgage. Let's say they have 200,000 in countable assets. They could take a portion of that 200,000 and pay down the mortgage, or they could buy a more expensive vehicle. They could buy a burial program. So there are ways.
Yeah, you can also pay bills.
You
could do house improvements. So you need to handicap your bathroom or to give a ramp or something. So when you're close, definitely worth conversations with us to see how you can wisely spend down that money. The other piece that we didn't talk about is one of the care ways to receive care is you can have care be rendered by friends or family. And then you can pay that person to render that care and to have offset that care cost. So that's we can talk about that. You can give us a call. All right, so the next benefit that's eligible to everyone is Medicaid. Again, Medicaid only pays in skilled nursing, so that's the highest level of care. If you qualify for that, you want to make sure that the nursing home you're looking at has a Medicaid bed available, meaning that that's the form of payment that they take. So for example, if a nursing home had 50 beds and all 50 will take private pay, but only 30 of them will take Medicaid, then that's considered a Medicaid bed. It's not a type of bed. You do have to meet medical necessity. So you need assistance with 2 of the 6 of activities of daily living or cognitive impairment. But it also has to be something that a physician has to render care, not just someone like a CNA. So you need to make sure when you talk to the social worker, when you're looking for a family member to go into skilled nursing, that they meet medical necessity for Medicaid. And then there's income and asset criteria. So the good news about Texas is a very Medicaid friendly state, and couples can protect all of their assets and protect the community spouse's income if you know how to do it right. And then singles can protect most or all of their assets. So it's very friendly for Medicaid in the state of Texas to not let people go completely broke, especially the spouse with a spouse in the community. So a lot of times we have people come to us and they say these things. These are all myths. You have to be broke. My income's too high. I'm going to get bad care. Oh, I can give away all my assets and then I'll get on Medicaid, and I'm going to lose my house, or I have to sell my house in order to get on Medicaid. And these are all things that we hear all the time. So for assets, your house is exempt. So your home's exempt, 1 car is exempt. If you have irrevocable burial plans or prepaid funeral plans, if you have a business and you filed taxes on those business assets are protected. If you have any mineral rights that are under $6,000, also protected. And they can protect what's called the protected resource amount for the couples. And we'll kind of go into some examples about that. Things that they do count, any bank accounts in your name or in your spouse's name. Even if it's, even if there's a, what is it called? Separate property, or if you have a
Trust?
Not a trust. What's when you split, when you sign, so if you get a divorce, someone can't get your money. A prenup. Yeah. Even if you have a prenup, all of it counts. Any stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement accounts, a second vehicle, third vehicle, a trailer, RV, motorcycles, all those count. And if you have any land, also if you have like a timeshare, that also will count. Okay, so we won't get too much in the weeds in this, but the state reports on 2 dates. The biggest thing is that you have to be under $2,000 on the first of the month. But they look at what your assets were for the snapshot on the first of the month that you were in the hospital that led to the nursing home. And when it's a couple, that's the amount of money they divide between the two, the community spouse and the nursing home spouse. The community spouse then gets to protect $154,140, and the rest goes over into the nursing home spouse. So we need to figure out how to protect the nursing home spouse's assets. The eligibility date is the first day of the month that the nursing home spouse is under $2,000. And we can explain more about that later. So how do you wisely protect your money? Well, if you have bills, credit card debt, pay them off. If you've not had a burial plan, get one. If you have any mortgage, maintenance, need a new roof, need a new AC unit on the house, go ahead and take care of those. Another really big one that people don't know about is you can protect qualified accounts, and we can tell you about that later. There's also another strategy called a spousal pension that we can help you with, and a few other things. And this is where it's really important to come to somebody like us to help you with a long-term care plan. All right, so Bill's going to walk us through how this couple asset protection work and a couple of simple examples.
Okay, thanks, Tara. As Tara said, there's exempt assets. You can see the things on the left side of the page. This couple has a nice home. They have a nice car. They've prepaid for their burial programs, and they've made those irrevocable. That's just another trip back to the funeral home saying, hey, I want to sign a one-page waiver that says I agree not to cash my burial program in for cash. And in this case, the family might have also had a business asset might have been a hardware store, could have been a ranch, but if you file tax returns on business assets, those are exempt. Now, everything else is countable, and in this case, we've got $200,000 of countable assets. You can see the couple has $148,000 in the bank, and one of them has a $52,000 IRA. On the snapshot date, the state divides the countable assets between the couple. In this case, each one has $100,000 in their bucket. The nursing home spouse has 100. The community spouse has 100. And so the challenge is, do we spend down what's in that nursing home spouse's bucket, or can we protect it? And that's obviously what we're focused on, is asset protection. You'll notice the community spouse can protect. They have what's called the protected resource amount. And so they can pick of any of the money that's up on top. They can take 100 of it. It could be in one spouse's name or joint ownership, doesn't matter. The community spouse can protect, in this case, $100,000. Well, the first thing we're going to do, Tara mentioned that there is a way to protect IRA assets. So in this case, we're going to reposition the $52,000 IRA into an instrument that the state of Texas exempts. If the couple is over, or the owner is over 73, they still have to take their required minimum distributions, but we can automatically protect qualified funds. That's IRA, 401k, 403b, 457 plans, Roth IRAs. So those can all be protected. So we still have 48,000 sitting in the nursing home spouse's bucket. And so the next thing we're going to do, in this case, we didn't have any bills to pay. We couldn't buy a more expensive car. So we set up a spousal pension. And what we did, we took the 48 that was in the nursing home spouse's bucket. We pay it back to the community spouse over a set period of time. In this case, we did it over 48 months. So the community spouse is getting $1,000 a month, essentially, from the nursing home spouse. We've drained the nursing home spouse's bucket. And guess what? They're now eligible for Medicaid benefits. What about income? Let's talk about how income is protected. The nursing home resident's income is what is paid to the nursing home. Community spouse gets to protect their income. The community spouse's income is never subject to spend down at the nursing home. So we've got the nursing home spouse's income. They get an allowance of $75 for personal needs. They get a deduction for any medical premiums they pay for themselves. Could be a Medicare supplement, a drug plan, an Advantage plan, or the Medicare B premium. They have the ability, if it's a couple situation, we can transfer income to the community spouse and bring the community spouse up to $38,5350. And I'm going to show you an example of how we go about doing this. One more word of explanation on income. Tara said earlier, income never stops people from getting on Medicaid. One of the myths is my income's too high. Well, there is an income limit in Medicaid, and it's $28.29 per month for the nursing home spouse. If your income is above $28.29, you can still get on Medicaid, but it requires one more step. We have to set up a qualified income trust checking account. It's just a glorified checking account. The trust controls it. So people that make more than $28.29 can still get on Medicaid, just like people that make less than $28.29, and they get the same deductions that are shown above. So let's look at an income example for a couple. We got the nursing home spouse. Their income is $2,000 of gross monthly income. The question is, how much goes to the nursing home? Our community spouse has two sources of income, $1,000 from Social Security, and then remember, we set up that spousal pension, so they're getting $1,000 from the spousal pension, so they have $2,000 of gross income. Well, the first thing we're going to exempt is, for the nursing home spouse, is $75 for personal needs. Then we're going to let them pay their medical premiums. Let's say this person has a Medicare supplement with $200 of medical premiums. They get a deduction of $200 off of their gross income. The next question we ask is, hey, how much does the community spouse make? And in this case, they make way less than 3853. In fact, we're 1853 below the limit. So in this case, the nursing home spouse only had 1725 left. We took the 2,000, we subtracted 75, we subtracted 200 for medical premiums. They only had 1725 left. We transfer all of that to the nursing home spouse, and guess what? The nursing home spouse is paying zero. We have many couples where the nursing home, the cost of Medicaid in a nursing home is actually zero. In this case, we protected all the assets, we protected all of the income, and we've got the nursing home spouse receiving a $7,000 or $8,000 nursing home bed for zero. That feels pretty good. So these are examples of the kind of planning we do to help our clients not go broke. We're particularly interested with couples because we don't want the nursing home spouse bankrupting the community spouse. I mean, let's say mom and dad goes to the nursing home and private pays, and he drains down all the assets, then he goes to heaven. What does mom have to get home on? Not a whole lot. So our focus is asset preservation, and in this case, income preservation also. When we think of VA and Medicaid benefits, think of them as part of a total long-term care plan. Remember, we mentioned other ways to pay for long-term care, and we want to tap into each of those where they're appropriate. And our goal is to maximize where federal and state benefits can be called upon to pay for long-term care. One last caveat, Tara earlier said that Medicaid only pays for nursing home care. That's a true statement, but there's an asterisk next to it. We have actually two families right now that are investigating transferring nursing home benefits to a home-based environment. Once you qualify for Medicaid in a nursing home, you have the ability to request a transfer of service. And if the state's paying, say, $4,000 or $5,000 a month for your care in the nursing home, you can now ask to have that redirected, and you'd have $4,000 or $5,000 to spend on caregivers coming into the home. So if that's of interest, give us a call on that. Wow. As you can see from this discussion, long-term care is expensive, and it can be devastating if we don't do a little bit of planning to protect our assets and our income. We've been doing long-term care planning for 22 years. We've never had, out of the 1,800 Medicaid cases we've handled, we've never had a case turned down, and we've never had a VA case turned down. And so if either of those is appropriate for you or a loved one or a family or friend, please give us a call, and we'd be happy to provide a plan. When we do Medicaid and VA, we take ownership. We own the case. We do charge a fee for doing VA and Medicaid planning, but we guarantee that the person's going to get a benefit. And we've been very successful doing that. So next week, we're going to hopefully delve into Medicare. We'll start 2 more discussions on Medicare because we're in that open enrollment season, October 15th, starting today, to December 7th, when people can make changes on their Medicare coverages. And we'll talk about how you make a good, smart choice.
All right, that's it. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.